Chapter 309. A Sweeping Sword. Don't worry, that fellow definitely won't be able to escape. Xiaojin confidently patted his chest. He was now invincible at the Yuanying stage, and his strength was comparable to that of a late outbreathing stage powerhouse. Niu San on the side also had a relaxed look on his face. Although he had just been promoted to the outbreathing stage, he was a Yuanying sealer before. So after being promoted to the outbreathing stage, his strength was equivalent to a mid-outbreathing stage, and he was still certain of dealing with an enemy in the early outbreathing stage. Senior brother Huang, what about you? Kang Qian suddenly asked. At this time, the crowd also realized that Huang Tao did not have a mission anymore, and could not help but look over. Of course, they didn't think that Huang Tao was afraid of death, because this was a completely surefire battle, a good opportunity to directly earn military honors. I'm responsible for guarding the surroundings. After all, there are too many enemies here. Maybe our fight will attract other enemies. In addition, I also have to prevent those Yuanying stage Devil Dao disciples from fighting for their lives. Otherwise it's hard to guarantee that our Yuanying stage senior disciples won't get injured. Huang Tao smiled at his words. The crowd of Yuanying stage Heavenly Dao sect disciples were all touched at his words. Since that's the case, then we'll evenly distribute the military achievements gained this time, Kang Qian said solemnly as he sniffed. This, Huang Tao was a little hesitant. Although he was touched, Kang Tian and the others had contributed the most, so it would be most unfair to them if it was distributed evenly. Brother is right. Since we all came out to train together, the military honors should be distributed evenly, not only this time, but also in the future. Little Gold also exclaimed. I agree. Niu San also nodded his head. Those Yuanying stage disciples were touched. They knew that an even distribution would be best for them. After all, Kang Tian and the others were too strong. Huang Tao looked towards Kang Qian. From Kang Qian's gaze, he saw sincerity, and his heart was immediately moved. I understand the good intentions of the three senior brothers, but I can't do this. It's too unfair to you all. In the end, he shook his head and said in a deep voice. Kang Qian frowned and pondered for a moment before proposing, in that case, let's change the method of distribution, and the military achievements gained in the future will be divided into two halves. Half of it will be divided equally among the four of us, senior brother Huang, little Jin, and brother Niu, and the remaining half will be divided equally among the other senior brothers. I agree, Xiaojin said without thinking. I also agree, Niu San also nodded. The others had even less objections, because even if they were to share half, they would still be taking advantage of the situation. This is fine. Huang Tao hesitated for a while before nodding. At this time, in a short mountain forest, 18 Devil Dao disciples gathered here. Half of them were healing and recovering from their injuries, while those three out-of-body stage powerhouses were sitting together, talking and laughing. Big brother, this time we have harvested abundantly. After we go back, we will definitely be able to exchange for many treasures. The strength of our three brothers will be able to raise our cultivation much more. At that time, even in this east battlefield, we will not be afraid. A big man with a full beard and thick eyebrows said. He was one of the early stage of outbreeding powerhouses. Yes, although this east battlefield is the main battlefield of the righteous path and is very dangerous, the military honors that can be gained here are also the most lucrative. As long as we stay here for a few decades, all three of us brothers will be able to advance to the peak of the outbreeding stage, and then we will be able to make a break for it even if it's the King's Land. The other early outbreeding stage powerhouse was a youth with a thin figure, his face a little pale. Opposite them was the late outbreeding stage powerhouse, a middle-aged man with black hair and thick eyebrows. His face was resolute and very calm, vaguely transmitting an extraordinary aura. Looking at the two brothers in front of him, a hint of a smile appeared on this person's face. This time, we were able to kill the three out. of body stage powerhouses of the Heavenly Tao sect. The two brothers contributed quite a lot. When we go back this time, I'll exchange it for enough cultivation treasures so that your strength can be raised to another level. Big Brother is out of line to say that. If it wasn't for your sudden outburst of peak out of body stage strength this time, those three out of body stage powerhouses from the Heavenly Tao sect would have run away. Here, how would they know Big Brother's true strength? Although Big Brother only has a cultivation of late out of body stage, as long as there is that treasure, Big Brother will be able to utilize the power of peak out of body stage. The two early out of body stage powerhouses laughed. The middle-aged man with black hair and thick eyebrows smiled as he took out a yellow incantation talisman from his spatial ring and laughed. This powerful god talisman is something I spent 50,000 contribution points on in exchange for, and this time it's finally playing a real role. The powerful god talisman only has a strength bonus effect on cultivators below the peak of the outbreathing stage. When I advance to the peak of the outbreathing stage, this thing will be useless to me, and then I will give this to you to use. The middle-aged man with black hair and thick eyebrows continued. Those two early out-of-body stage powerhouses were overjoyed at the words. This powerful god talisman was able to increase their cultivation by one level. At this moment, at the bottom of the mountain, a group of Heavenly Tao sect disciples, led by Huang Tao, was slowly approaching this group of Devil Tao disciples. Stop. Suddenly, Huang Tao transmitted his voice to the crowd. The crowd stopped at once, waiting for Huang Tao's order. We are only 5,000 feet away from them. Huang Tao pointed at the mountain forest ahead and said in a deep voice, "The spirit talisman I exchanged from the contribution hall can only mask our aura outside of 5,000 feet. And the enemy will discover us when we enter within 5,000 feet. They were able to feel their way all the way here without being discovered by the enemy by virtue of a spirit talisman that Huang Tao had exchanged in the Hall of Contributions. This kind of spirit talisman that masked the breath was very precious, but it was also a treasure that the cultivators in the orthodox demon battlefield had to exchange. Senior brother Kang Chon, you are the fastest and strongest. This first sneak attack is for you. Don't sneak attack those three out-of-body stage powerhouses. Just deal with those Yuanying stage devil disciples." Huang Tao looked towards Kang Chon and transmitted his voice. I know. Kang Chon nodded. This was something they had planned long ago. With the strength of their side, those three out-of-body stage powerhouses couldn't afford to make any big waves. And his sneak attack this time was mainly to weaken the strength of the disciples dealing with the Yuanying stage disciples, thus making the Tiandao sect Yuanying stage disciples side even more dominant. This was the best way to ensure zero losses. Hey, when brother strikes, it's bound to be extraordinary. So watch carefully, Little Gold said excitedly. Is it the same move from the last instantaneous transfer? The crowd was also filled with anticipation as they stared at Kang Chon one by one. They were very shocked at the magic of the move Sublime Slash. Drink. Kang Chon let out a low drink, and a purple halo slowly appeared on his hands that were holding the blood blade. And immediately after, a huge amount of true essence flowed down his arms and converged towards the blood blade. Slowly, the blood knife began to erupt with a brilliant radiance and more fiery, when the radiance blazed to the extreme, like a blood-colored sun. And at this time, the light in Kang Chon's eyes shot out, and he roared, "Sublime Chop!" Boom, with a muffled sound. The next moment, Kang Chon's body directly disappeared in front of the crowd. It's gone. It's really gone. It's an instantaneous transfer. The crowd rubbed their eyes, even though it was the second time they had seen Kang Chon perform the Sublime Slash. They were still somewhat incredulous. To be able to instantly move at the Yuanying stage, when we get to the outbreathing stage, I'm afraid that there aren't many people in the Land of Kings who are a match for senior brother Kang Chon. Huang Tao said with a face of awe. For your information, this divine move was self-created by my brother, Little Gold said smugly. The crowd was even more shocked at his words. They already admired Kang Chon's talent. This kind of genius, as long as he didn't die, he would be the overlord of the Flood continent in the future. Tear. While the crowd was shocked, the spatial crack above the group of Devil Dao disciples suddenly shattered open, and a violet-clothed youth stepped out from within, holding up a blood-colored divine sword and slashing out towards the group of Devil Dao disciples. This scene came too suddenly and too quickly, and those Devil Dao disciples below were unable to react in time, before they were already engulfed by a blade that was 100 feet long. Not good. Enemy attack. Quickly disperse. The eyes of that middle-aged man in the late out-of-body stage shrunk. His face changed drastically, and he roared. It was just that everything was already too late. Kang Chon continuously performed several sublime slashes and instantly came from 5,000 feet away. That speed was so fast that even if they realized it, it was too late for them to react. In the end, only those 3 outbreathing stage powerhouses escaped the center of the blade's attack, and the rest of the Yuanying stage Devil Dao disciples could only watch as the boundless blade engulfed them. Rumble. A series of explosions rang out as the blade-ons blazed and the entire thing exploded, the unrivaled energy impacting in all directions, causing these 15 Devil Dao disciples to be subjected to a fierce attack. Among them, those 7 or 8 demonic path disciples who had been injured long ago were instantly killed, and the remaining few, one by one, also suffered heavy injuries and lost their fighting strength. The entire mountain forest was instantly in shambles. This, at the back, those heavenly Dao sect disciples who had rushed up, including Huang Tao, were all stunned one by one. They had thought that Kang Chon would just be able to heavily injure these Yuanying stage Devil Dao disciples. How could they have expected that the power of Kang Chon's blade would be so powerful that it would directly destroy those 15 Yuanying stage Devil Dao disciples, and even those who survived would have lost their combat power, which didn't require them to make a move at all. To fierce, Niu San's face was filled with shock. Huang Tao was also in awe. Quickly run. Instantaneous movement. It's a powerhouse of the divine separation stage. At this time, a loud roar came from the sky. It was from that middle-aged man in the late outbreathing stage. He was shocked by the scene of Kang Chon tearing through space just now. This was a tactic that only a divine separation stage powerhouse could have. He didn't think that they were so unlucky to have encountered a divine separation stage powerhouse. This was almost a slim chance of being encountered once in 100 years. The 3 outbreathing stage powerhouses didn't care at all about the deaths of those Yuanying stage Devil Dao disciples, and fled in 3 directions at the first time, knowing that only by splitting up could they have a slight chance of surviving. Can you escape, HMPH? Kang Chon snorted coldly, his gaze locking onto that late outbreathing stage powerhouse as he once again executed the sublime slash and chased after him. When that middle-aged man at the late outbreathing stage saw that it was Kang Chon who was chasing after him, he was instantly scared out of his wits and hurriedly accelerated his speed to run away. Strange, why is he only at the 9th level of the Yuanying stage? Could it be that he's hiding his cultivation? It must be. For a powerhouse at the divine separation stage to hide his cultivation, I simply can't detect it, the middle-aged man thought as he fled. But how could his speed compare to Kang Chon's? And he was soon caught up by Kang Chon. On the other side, Xiao Jin, Huang Tao, and Niu San also caught up with the other to early out-of-body powerhouses, and the few of them fought in the sky. Those remaining heavily Dao sect Yuanying stage disciples couldn't help but look at each other in dismay as they realized that they didn't even have a chance to fight. With senior brother Kang Chon around, I'm afraid we won't even have a chance to fight in the future, a heavenly Dao sect disciple sighed. Isn't this good? So we have a better chance of surviving, and there are still military honors to be had, hehe. Alright, senior brothers have gone off to fight. Let's go clean up the battlefield, and those few Devil Dao disciples who haven't broken, let's give them a ride too. These Heavenly Dao sect disciples were all very excited. This kind of good thing where they could get military honors without fighting, it was simply too good to be true. In the sky, the middle-aged man at the late stage of outbreeding fought with Kangchon, and after being sent flying by Kangchon/, he took out a yellow spirit talisman from his spatial ring and then excited it. Instantly, the aura on his body strengthened a lot. Reaching the peak of the out-of-body stage,